Well, the Preds may have clinched a playoff spot, but they still have a critical weekend doubleheader to go through. Plus, how is Andrew Brunette going to handle his team now that they're in the postseason? We'll talk about it today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day, every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, want to start out with a special shout out to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys, and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio.
On today's show, Nashville Predators, they're in the playoffs, so yay. You don't have to worry about critical points or anything like that anymore. But, you'd still probably like to get the number one wild card spot, maybe more than you would like the number two wild card spot. So these next two games against Chicago tonight and Columbus tomorrow are going to be critical. We're going to talk about the Preds' mindset going into these games and how Andrew Brunette is going to handle this roster moving forward until they get to the postseason. Plus, it's Friday, so we're bringing it back, and
oh, come on.
Takes from a hat.
Let's go.
He's completely stole this idea from Whose Line Is It Anyway? We've got a lot of Predators playoff topics in these hats. We'll dive into that coming up later on the show. Do want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Ann, we talked about it at the top of the show. The Nashville Predators are in the playoffs, but two, maybe you call them trap games on the schedule this weekend. Predators in the Windy City tonight to take on the Chicago Blackhawks, 7:30 Central puck drop for that one. And then tomorrow is the home finale before the playoffs. Predators host the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, Ann, naturally, when you look at the standings and you see Chicago and you see Columbus, it's not exactly testing yourself against, Vancouver, Dallas, or Colorado ahead of the postseason.
True.
But it's not like the Predators don't have anything to play for either, because they still very much want that first wild card spot. It's going to be a tough matchup either way between Vancouver, or it looks like Dallas at this point. You would probably want to play Vancouver over a Central Division team, in my mind, if you're the Nashville Predators. Right. So if you're in that locker room, you're one of the leaders, you're Andrew Brunette. What are you saying to your team ahead of this doubleheader that, as we mentioned, could probably be considered a trap game for a lot of different reasons?
Yeah, I think this could be a trap game, but I do think the upside is that Nashville seems to be viewing these games as opportunities to prepare for the postseason. And I think you're right. I do think the Predators still feel like they have something to fight for. I think the standings are very important to them. And of course, they're going to say, and I'm sure they mean, we'll play whoever you put in front of us. Sure, but wouldn't you really rather not see a super hot Dallas team right now? So I think that they still have something to play for as far as that first wild card spot. But I do think they need to focus on these games, not just for points and standings, but also because this is a time to perfect or improve the things that have been hitches in the giddy up over this last 10-game, 12-game stretch for the Predators. So while they could be trap games, if Nashville's smart, they really focus on this weekend's doubleheader. No, they're not going to be the hardest teams in the league that you're playing against, but this is an opportunity for you to play your best hockey and kind of go in with momentum to the postseason. So I think these games are actually really much more important than the opponent's record and Nashville's situation maybe indicates.
Yeah, can I also give you another reason why I would not want to play Dallas in the first round?
Do tell.
Don't you just get the vibe that Matt Duchene's going to
Dude.
have like 10 points in 4 games if that happens?
100. I mean, it's going to be the most symbolic hockey middle finger, and nobody
Yeah.
wants to see that.
Yeah.
No, don't want to see it.
No. I mean, look, it's going to be interesting these next couple of games. Chicago, especially, with Connor Bedard and what he's done over there, kind of single-handedly keeping the Blackhawks relevant. And they have, some pretty big wins over the last little bit. I mean, they beat Dallas last week, which I think that sort of raised everybody's eyebrows a little bit. They got wins over Philly. They got wins over Calgary. So, they've been, giving teams their best shot. Peter Mrazek, I think, in goal is, probably playing better than a lot of people sort of expect. And then you look at Columbus and, it's sort of the same picture, not good in the standings, but lately they have been giving teams a little bit of a fight and a little bit of some trouble. So, yeah, I mean, this is easily one of those, weekends where if the Nashville Predators aren't prepared or maybe overlooking a few things or maybe just looking towards the postseason, there's a potential for them to maybe get embarrassed in this one. And real quick, I want to talk about the mindset of the Nashville Predators team headed into this because, a lot of people are saying it's like, hey, we got the spot. We're going to have a tough matchup either way. Do we need to rest some guys? Do we need to get guys healthy? You talked to Andrew Brunette about that today. What was his sort of take on how he's going to handle this roster moving forward?
Yeah, this was a really interesting conversation. And I think it's something that's heavy on the minds of everybody in Nashville. What is this looking like? What are you focused on? And what are you going to do with some of these players? This is what Andrew Brunette had to say.
To keep our game tight. I think, let's get some distractions. Obviously, we got one goal of getting in the playoffs now. Our main objective is to keep building our game, growing it, and keep the momentum. We've been on a pretty good run of playing good hockey, and it's going to be tested here for the last 3.
What do we expect in terms of resting guys versus playing these last 3 games?
We're just gonna stay status quo and play, and we'll make decisions as we go. There might be a guy out here, a guy out there, but really it's kind of a unique situation this year where you play 3 and 4, and then you probably don't play for another week. So rest is important, but it's kind of a little bit tricky because I don't want us out that long. I've never had to wait that long to play one. So let's just keep going straight forward. Our same mindset we've had throughout the stretch of the second half here.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. He talks about kind of not resting players. And I think kind of the vibe was once they get in, Philip Forsberg's going to rest, we're going to rest some of these, veteran, quote unquote, older guys. But it does not sound like that. What I do think Andrew Brunette is going to do, and I think we're going to see, is he's going to get reps for players like Cody Glass, like Tyson Barrie. We may see Jad in there. Just to get these guys some game time under their belt who have been out of the lineup for a little while, in case they're needed in the postseason. So I think there will be a few little lineup tweaks, but I'm surprised. And I kind of get the logic of, Andrew Brunette's probably not going to just coast these last 3 games, which I don't know. I think is kind of an interesting way to do it.
I think you want to keep that momentum going that you've built these past few games, right? Like, you had, I guess like my thing is we've seen teams do this in the past where they've taken their foot off the gas a little bit, whether it's resting guys or getting guys back in the lineup. And it took them a while to sort of ramp back up to where they were. Nashville Predators being one of those teams back in 2018. They had some injuries and they were kind of not resting guys, but rotating guys in and out of the lineup. Your top lines weren't necessarily getting the minutes that they were, in critical games. And it took them a while to ramp back up. We saw it in that Colorado series in 2018 where, Colorado looked a little bit more pretty than the Nashville Predators did. And The same for Winnipeg later that season. So it just, I think if you're an NHL team, you have to be very careful about the concept of quote unquote resting guys or rotating guys in and out. Maybe you take some people out in the last game so you don't, get somebody injured for the playoffs and, a meaningless shift or something like that. But I think you got to be very wary about doing anything that might disrupt the flow that your team is building. You want that team feeling like they're playing playoff hockey these last 3 weeks of the regular season. So they have that mindset, they have that intensity, and they have that momentum going into these first round matchups, especially the first couple games on the road.
Yeah. And I think too, it took Nashville a while this season to find line chemistry. And they finally did. And that's when they started to have success. So I don't know that in the last 3 games of the regular season, you want to just kind of throw that out in the name of resting people. Like, I think you still want to keep guys together and kind of building on that chemistry too. So I think it's an interesting way to kind of navigate these last 3 games. It does help that it looks like Nashville's going to have a chunk of time between regular season ending and the first round of the playoffs starting. So I think overall, this is going to work pretty well for the Nashville Predators as far as keeping guys fresh, continuing to work on some things, but also there will be a little bit of time for some rest before the postseason kicks off.
Yeah. Again, this weekend, Predators take on the Chicago Blackhawks tonight, 7:30 puck drop Central in the Windy City. They play the Columbus Blue Jackets at home at Bridgestone Arena. I believe that is a 7 o'clock Central puck. Yep, 7 o'clock Central puck drop. I don't know. They do weird things with the schedule now and then.
I know.
We'll, of course, have both recaps of both games next week on the Locked On Predators podcast. First, though, it's time to break out our favorite segment, Ann.
Come on.
Takes from a hat. We have some good questions about the Nashville Predators in the postseason, as well as a couple other fun things as well. We're going to dive into those coming up in just 1 second. First, though, I want to mention today's episode is brought to you by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting right now. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million worth of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policy Genius also helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts are always on hand to help you walk through any questions you may have. It's easy. You can easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. And Policy Genius also gives you unbiased advice from licensed expert support team. And they have no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance without being, feeling like they're trying to sell you something. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonnhl or click the link in our description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonnhl. All right, Ann. It's time to break out.
Come on.
Takes from a hat.
So fun.
For those of you who have been with Locked On Preds for a while, you know how this works. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, basically this is like whose line is it anyway? Ann and I have each written prompts in our little hats right here. We'll draw one, ask the other their thoughts, and we'll take it from there. So Ann, I'm going to let you rally, and I'm going to do the first one for you.
Okay, let's go.
Let's see. All right, we're starting off with a banger right off the bat.
Oh, no.
Let's assume the Nashville Predators miraculously win the Western Conference and get to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Ooh.
Which Eastern Conference opponent would you like to see compete for the Stanley Cup?
Which Eastern Conference opponent? You know who I think would be super, super fun? I would love the New York Rangers.
I was thinking that too.
I feel like, and I don't know why, but I feel like So you're saying there's a chance, with against the Rangers. I also love the storyline of, hey, you have a former Nashville Predators head coach in Peter Laviolette behind the bench. You have Barry Trotz, a former Nashville Predators coach, as the GM of the Predators now. Hey, Andrew Brunette now behind the there are so many great storylines there with the New York Rangers. And I also I don't know, I feel like it would be great to see the Predators match up against the Rangers. There's a couple other teams in the East that I'm like, no, thank you. No, thank you. But I would love to see the New York Rangers. What about you? Who
I was thinking Rangers too, just because I think it would be just a fun matchup.
Yes.
I think it is a team very similar to the way Nashville kind of, used to play. They have a lot of physical guys on that team.
True.
But it's also, to me, the biggest storyline is the two netminders, Igor Shesterkin in one net, and then you have UC Saros in the other net. Two guys considered, or at least always in the conversation for best goalie in the NHL, easily both top 5 right now.
Right.
You're going to get like some 2-1, 1-0 bangers in this series. So I'm very curious maybe to see how that one goes out.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Is there a team in the East you would not want to play?
Toronto, just because I don't want to deal with all the, media stuff going out there.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm not particularly interested in seeing the Hurricanes. No, thank you.
No, we've done a playoff series against the Hurricanes.
Not.
Yeah. Boston too. Boston, I feel like would be a really, really tough one. And I think the other one, if they get there, boy, it is going to be really tough to see Tampa Bay.
Yes.
In a Stanley Cup final for a lot of reasons.
Wouldn't it be amazing though if we saw them in the Stanley Cup final and Nashville won it, and then Ryan McDonough's like, suckers, didn't want to pay me. Which Ryan McDonough would never say, but in his heart, maybe.
To summarize what you just said, Ann, yes, I would like to see the Nashville Predators win the Stanley Cup.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Next one.
See. How would you use Saros and Lankinen in a 7-game first round series? What would you do? How would you manage goaltending
in the series?
Yeah, in a
series. UC Saros starts every game.
Really? You wouldn't give Lankinen a start?
No, absolutely not. UC Saros is your number one goalie until he sucks. And I know why you're asking, because I feel like that's kind of been the trend that a lot of teams are maybe, looking at maybe giving a backup goalie a game.
Right.
In the Stanley Cup finals. We've seen it used sparingly in past series. I mean, Colorado kind of famously did it during their cup run in 2022.
Yeah.
If a goaltender gets hot, then maybe has an off night, switch it up a little bit just for a game or two. Kind of keep riding the hot hand. So I get why you're asking. And I get that that's kind of been a question that a lot of people have sort of started spearheading on social media. I just think in the playoffs, if you have a hot goalie, that's your guy. Yeah. It's a different beast in the playoffs. So if you have UC Saros and he's on fire, you don't touch that momentum at all. UC Saros is going to start every game in the playoffs for the Nashville Predators, barring injury or Kevin Lankinen just gets weirdly hot all of a sudden.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so interesting to me. And I understand that that's kind of just how it's done. But you look at, I think last year, Saros wasn't in the playoffs, as were none of the Nashville Predators. And the year before that, wasn't that the season he was injured?
Yep. That was Connor Ingram time
Connor Ingram's coming out party. And so there's a part of me that's like, do we use Lankinen if it goes to 7 games? Do you give Lankinen a game? And plus, let me just be honest, there's a part of me that's like, freaking give Kevin Lankinen a playoff game. Like, dude, he's never played in a playoff game. get Lincoln in a playoff game. But I get what you're saying. I do think, when you hit this point, you're all in on your goaltender. Like you're just all in on your goaltender. So I get it. But give Lanky a start.
Yeah, no, I get it. Want to do it nice for him, but yeah. So
Yeah, interesting.
But I'm all in on Saros says starting every game, barring injury.
Yeah.
All right. Here's a tough one for any Coyotes fans out there.
Oh no.
So obviously Salt Lake City might be getting an NHL team next year. And with Salt Lake City now in the books, maybe what other city in North America would be your dream location to start a new NHL franchise?
It's so interesting, and I have to say my answer is in credit to Greg Wyshynski, who was on the radio this morning and was talking about Arizona and moving teams around, and he said something, and I just had to amen it. So I'm basically stealing his thoughts, but for me, it would be Atlanta for a couple of reasons. I know, we've been there, we've done that, but
reason one, it's funny.
It's funny. It is funny, reason two, we all grow in relationships. It's not like we're going back to the bad boyfriend. Things have changed a little bit, but I do think Atlanta would be great. Number one, I think it introduces a different demographic to the NHL, which I think the NHL has to do. Number two, I love that it's a regional rivalry. And one of the things that's difficult about being the Nashville Predators is that this is such a destination city that we have such an influx of out of town hockey fans that come in Thursday night's games. Like they come in and then they spend the weekend at the honky tonks and all of that. I want a city that Nashville Predators fans can flock to, like people flock here, and cause a ruckus and do the wrong team's chant and all of that. Like, I want a city. So you give me Atlanta. I'm going Atlanta.
Yeah. Are they going to go and just party at Magic City? Like people would party on Broadway here.
The world of Coca-Cola, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Side note, Magic City, some of the best mozzarella sticks I think you'll ever have in your life.
Really? Interesting.
So
is there a bad mozzarella stick though? I mean, really?
Yes. As somebody who's had bad mozzarella sticks.
That's sad. That's sad.
Yeah.
Where would you have a franchise? Where would you put one?
Obviously I'd love Atlanta to get another chance with better ownership and maybe with a arena in a place more suited to, I guess more, the thing with Atlanta the first time was nobody wanted to go downtown to go see hockey games, especially for a bad team. I think I believe it's in DeKalb County right now, somewhere a little bit more, a little bit out of the way, a little bit easier to get to, maybe with more local support, with less driving. I'd like to do that. I would also like to see Kansas City. Kansas City has had some decently good hockey history over their years. So I would not mind seeing them maybe get a chance to get a cup here and there. Or
that would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
More takes from a hat coming up in just a second.
Yeah, I've got a couple juicy ones. So we're going to dive into those. First, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by our friends at Indeed. When you are drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talent roster, you need Indeed. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to U.S. Indeed data. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at Factor Meals. Look, summer is approaching fast, and if you are like me, now is the time. I'm starting to make those little changes to help me be ready for all the summer activities, and that includes making some smart food choices now. Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never-frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You can choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also discover more than 60 add-ons every week like breakfast, on-the-go lunches, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. So what are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up for your spring and summer goals. Head to factormeals.com/NHL50 and use code LOCKEDONNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LOCKEDONNHL50 at factormeals.com/LOCKEDONNHL50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next box while your subscription is active.
All right, Ann, hit us up with another take from a hat.
All right, another take from a hat. Okay, this is just a fun one. How excited would you be if the Preds won the Stanley Cup Finals? A, buy all the champion swag. B, go to the parade. C, get a relentless tattoo. D, all of the above.
Can I add a E?
Always.
It's D, all of the above. Plus, remember when Philip Forsberg signed and we chugged Fireball on our live reaction episode?
Yes.
It would be the wildest episode of Locked On Predators we ever did in our lives, man.
Yeah. So you would get a relentless tattoo if they win?
Oh, really? Yeah. Would it be relentless, or could it say like something else? Does it have to be relentless?
What else would you get if they won the Stanley? Like, what other tattoo would you get if they won the Stanley Cup Finals?
The Pringles can guy lifting a Stanley Cup, because that would be like Philip Forsberg.
Even better. Oh my gosh, you would seriously do that? Do we have on record that there would be a Stanley Cup winning tattoo happening?
There's going to be if the Preds win, there will be a Stanley Cup tattoo of some sort.
Okay, I'm in. I would do it. Yeah, for sure.
Do we get
if they win the Stanley Cup, 100%. And I'm here for the Pringles guy.
There we go. Yeah. Pringles guy with the Stanley Cup next to it.
Like we would have all of our swag. We'd be at the parade with our big Pringles Stanley Cup tattoos, drunk from the Locked On Predators podcast.
They would have no choice but to grant some of our interview requests now.
Why are we not taken seriously? I don't know.
Yeah. It is a man drunk on Fireball and a Stanley Cup tattoo asking to interview Philip Forsberg. What could go wrong?
That's a yes.
Yeah. Okay. Write it down. I'm with you on that one, Ann Kimmel.
Okay.
All right. All right. This is an interesting one.
Okay.
So the Predators back in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to mean the return of "Run This Town" for the intro for the music, like the Rihanna Jay-Z song.
It's so nice how you think I'm cool and know stuff, but go ahead.
Yeah, but they've done that as their intro for what, like every playoff team since I think 2011.
Okay, hum a bar.
Okay, do what?
Hum a bar of it.
Feel it coming in the air. Hear the screams from everywhere. I'm addicted to the thrill. It's a dangerous love affair. Have you not heard that? Maybe it's just the year off from the playoffs ruined it.
Maybe that's it.
Anyway, my thought was going to be if they don't do that song anymore, which you're obviously not emotionally attached to, What would you have as the Predators' new playoff intro theme song?
Oh, I'm old school, which is why I don't know the cool Rihanna Jay-Z song. I'm old school. So one of two, Crazy Train, because let's just go, or Welcome to the Jungle. Like when you play Welcome to the Jungle, I would run through a brick wall like the Kool-Aid Man when that song is on. So for me, like give them a song like that. Those are my two picks. What would you go with? You're going to have a much better answer than I am.
God, I mean, I'm a big fan of Welcome to the Jungle. I think that's badass.
So
I think it's yeah. I don't know. I guess that would be it. Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah. Like I just feel like, you know what? I could kick anybody's jehoo-ha when you play Welcome to the Jungle and tell me to go. Okay.
Yeah. All right. I think we have time for one more.
All right. Let's see. Let's do one more. Not a fan of that one.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. That's our show.
That's it. Now, what is a success for the Predators in the postseason, or is just getting to the postseason success enough this year?
I mean, I feel like there is some levels of success for the Preds just being there, especially how the year started, especially where they were in Thanksgiving, because as we talked about on yesterday's show, there is historical significance for being able to dig out of a 5-point hole on Thanksgiving. That's a bigger comeback than I think a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Considering this team was dead in the water in February, I think they're proud to just be here. Not just, for lucking their way in like in years past, but for actually being good and, generating offense and being consistent as the year went on and, sort of fine tuning your game as the year went on. Even during this, sort of 7-game slump, I guess you called it, they're actually like their expected goals and shots generated are actually higher than they were during that 18-game point streak. So the Preds are actually getting better, and I think that's been the big key for them this year, and something that they can be proud of is they got better like as the year went on. Some dips and valleys there, but it was mostly just sort of an up curve, like an upwards trend. I think that's something they can really be proud of. For me, if I would be happy if the Preds if they made it a series in the round one.
Yeah.
Even if it's a tough team out there, like if they could go out there and just play really good hockey against a really good team, maybe take it to, right at the depth in game 6 or take them to game 7. And there's some games where you look like you're absolutely just dominating. I think if you can get that kind of performance, that's something that I would be happy with, especially if it's somebody like Dallas or a cup contender sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. And I think it's so interesting that expectations have shifted since that 18-game point streak. The Predators, like you said, they made it into the playoffs on their own. It wasn't because there was no team better or good enough to beat them. Nashville became a good team. So I think expectations changed, but I'm with you. I'm like, if they can make the first round series a real nail biter and draw it out, I think that's a win.
Yeah, I'm absolutely there.
But we really do want to get the Pringles Stanley Cup tattoo. So if they could just take it all the way, that'd be better.
Yes. Let's hope we do that.
Yeah.
All right. That's takes from a hat this week. That's our week's worth of shows. So, Anne, we will be back Monday with an all-new Locked On Preds episode. Before we get there, though, where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at Penalty Box Radio. You can also find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can find me at Penalty Box Radio as well, or follow me on social media at _NS Morgan. Thanks for joining us this week on the Locked On Predators podcast. We will see you next week.